Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do a quick review now of our multiplication of decimal numbers. So first of all, our keys to remember: 1, lining up decimals is not, N-O-T, not required. You can, but you don't need to. And sometimes they will. Adding placeholders each time you move to the next column or placeholder. Remember that when we go after we've multiplied the ones column, when we go to multiply the tens column, we need that extra 0 to move us over. And then if we then go to the hundreds column, in the next row it will be 2 placeholders and so on. Remember that. And then when we finish the problem, the number of decimal places in your solution should equal the total number of decimal places in your problem. So now, again, let's go through some example problems. Should be quite a bit of review for you. One of the other nice things about multiplication is the order does not make a difference. So when I set this up, if I go 6 on the top and 1/10 on the bottom, it is exactly the same as if I multiply it the other way around. And actually, I'll go ahead and I'll set this up this way as well, and we will sort of prove multiplication is what we call commutative. Okay? 1 times 6 is 6. And that actually gets us through our tenths. Now, technically, since I would technically go to the tens position in this case and ignore your decimal for just now, I would add my placeholder 0, and I would then go and multiply with this 0. 0 times 6 is 0. And hopefully over time already, before stepping into this class, you realize or remember that you don't have to multiply by this 0, because that's just going to give you a row of zeros and it doesn't do us much good. But anyway, at this point I'll do my addition. 6 plus 0 is 6, and 0 plus nothing is 0, and I had 1 total decimal place in the problem, so I will have 1 in the answer. So my solution here is 6/10. Now I'll go ahead and do the problem the other way around in this case as well, just to illustrate it that it can be done. 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 0 is 0. And I have 1 decimal place in the problem, so I will need 1 decimal place in the answer. And either way, I get to 6/10. Multiplication is commutative. And knowing that, for example, in number 2, if it's me, I would put the 4 hundredths on the top. I would put the 2 on the bottom. Again, notice I'm not worrying about lining up decimals. One thing in this problem too, a negative times a positive will be negative, so I need to make sure that when I'm done, my answer is a negative answer. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. And 2 decimal places in my problem, so I will go down here 2 decimal places in my answer, and then a negative. Now this 0 in front is not required. We do not have to have zeros in front of decimals to complete the number, although they're nice in many cases. But the negative in this case is required. One of the things about multiplication, knowing that I can multiply in either order, I like to put the shorter number on the bottom because it tends to make the multiplication go quicker. I only, in this case, had to multiply through 1 time. Okay. So. And as soon as my slides decide to flip here, alright, here we go. Again, I could multiply in either order, but again, I like to put the shorter number on the bottom. So 1 and 25 hundredths and times 23. And I say that again, and I'll repeat it, is if I put the 23 on the bottom, I only have to multiply through the problem twice, where if I flip them and I put the 125 on the bottom, I'll have to multiply through 3 times. So 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 3 times 1 is 3. Placeholder. And the reason we actually are putting this placeholder in is the second time around, we're not actually multiplying by 2. We're multiplying by 20. Okay, so this placeholder 0 here takes the place of basically of the 0 in 20. It takes a place of all of those all of those zeros that we would have as we multiplied 20 times 5, 20 times 2, and so on. So, but 2 times 5 is 10. Carry my 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus this one is 5. And 2 times 1 is 2. Go ahead and add things together. 5, 7, 5 and 3 is 8. And then 2 plus nothing. This is a very poorly written 8. In my problem, you will see I have 2 decimal places. So in my answer, I will need 2 decimal places. So 28 and 75 hundredths. Just to illustrate that I can do multiplication in either order, I'm going to put the 1.6 on top in this particular problem, just to do it. 1.2 on the bottom. And in this case, the decimals do happen to line up, but again, they don't have to. We are not required to in multiplication. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. And because, again, I'm moving to the next column, I need my placeholder 0, and my solutions will start underneath this 1. Now, one other thing I like to do just for me is just look at this and go, what is 1 times 16? Well, 1 times 16 is 16, and I can do that multiplication pretty quickly. So 2, 9, 1, and I have a total of 1 plus 1 decimal place in my problem, which is 2, so I need 2 decimal places in my solution. So 1 and 92 hundredths. And 2 and 78 hundredths times 0.08. And you'll notice here I lined up the decimals when I didn't have to. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite them because that's going to throw some people off if I don't. Because when they're lining up their numbers and so on, it may throw their columns and things. In this case, though, we're only multiplying basically through once. But 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 7 is 56. Plus 6 is 62. 62. Computer's running a little slow this morning. 8 times 2 is 16. Plus 6 is 22. Right, now again, you could multiply, go with your placeholder and multiply 0 times 8, which is 0. 0 times 7 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. But you don't have to, because again, you notice we'll get this row of zeros right here. So knowing that's the case, you don't actually have to, but if you want to, go ahead and do it. Alright, notice that we have 2 decimal places here. We have 1 decimal place here. That is a total of 3. So I need 1, 2, 3 decimal places in my solution. So 2 and 224 thousandths. Nutrition application. On average, Americans eat 25 hundredths of a pound of peanut butter per month. How many pounds of peanut butter are eaten by approximately the 302 million Americans living in the United States per month? In both of these cases, I should have had S on the end of that, but anyway. Alright, so if I know how much they eat per month, and I know how many Americans we have, some simple multiplication. 302, and I don't have to actually worry about the million, although my answer, I should add that million on in the end. And we're multiplying by 0.25, 25 hundredths. And again, I do not have to line up decimals, but the decimal in 302 would be here at the end if I needed it. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 3 times 5 is 15. And I need my placeholder to get us over to the next column. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 3 is 6. And in this particular case, knowing that multiplying by this 0 would just give me a row of zeros, I'm going to skip it. Add them up. So I've got 0. I've got 5. I've 5, and I've got 7. In my problem, I have 2 decimal places total. So in my solution, I need 2 decimal places total. And this will be, again, in this case, because we had the label. So Americans will eat 75 and 50 hundredths million pounds of peanut butter. I should probably label that as well. Per month. It's a lot of peanut butter. Alright, so that gets us to the end. Practice time for you. Good luck. Any questions, come see me. Go.